Hi guys, how's it going? And thanks for joining me again on the channel. Now, I had thought yesterday that we would have been in a position to take a hard look at the reactions of the pro-Brexit mainstream media's reaction to the announcement by Šefčovič in regards to the withdrawal protocol. But as you guys probably have noticed, there really hasn't been one, as I think that most have been caught completely flat-footed by the announcement because it was such a good one. I say that because the amendment to the proposal really did address all the concerns of people of the north of Ireland who do not give a toss about political rhetoric, be that nationalist, unionist or otherwise. Guys, there are many in the north of Ireland that look over the fence and see those hundreds of thousands of well-paid jobs within multinational companies that have set up their European HQ in the Republic. And let's not forget that according to Rishi Sunak, the corporation tax for UK-based companies will be hiked from 19% to 25% in 2023. And that will be exactly double that of the Republic of Ireland. So, they simply wanted a solution to end the uncertainty. And I wish to repeat that again. They wished to end the uncertainty. And in my honest opinion, that though there were some minor obstacles to the Northern Ireland economy developing, most, if not all, such obstacles had already been overcome and the majority of businesses in the north had adapted. Now, I know many of you could point to the problems of bringing in live farm animals post-Brexit. However, and this is important, there have always been checks on the importation of live farm animals from the UK mainland into the north of Ireland. That has to be said, they were mostly, this event was mostly ignored by mainstream media, but the farmers knew it. However, there are some few new checks on the importation of flora and fauna, but as part of the overall economy, this is a very small fraction of a very small percentage of the Northern Ireland economy and is far outweighed by the ability of Northern Ireland firms to export products into mainland UK that had been sourced in the EU. So these guys, these were happy campers and everything was rather jolly, okay? This leads us to the sound bites that have been drip-fed over the last 24 hours. Now, to me, I think the three most important events that have occurred have happened in Northern Ireland, not in the UK. The first is that Šefčovič met with Michelle O'Neill, who is the Northern Ireland Deputy First Minister, which basically confirmed what he said at the press briefing, okay? That he was actively engaged with the people on the ground in the north of Ireland. The second is, of course, that absolute mess that has been caused by the revelation from Ian Paisley Jr. that he had been assured by Boris Johnson that the protocol that the British voters had been assured of was an oven-ready deal was going to be reneged upon. Now let's take a listen to exactly what he says.
Boris Johnson did tell me personally that he would, after agreeing to the protocol, he would sign up to changing that protocol and indeed tearing it up, that this was just for the semantics. Now that comment has been verified by another source much closer to Boris Johnson within his own government. So the fact of the matter is, I do believe that the government didn't really want this to happen to Northern Ireland and they took a short-term bet. The trouble is, this has cost the business people of Northern Ireland £850 million, which we can't afford. So it's got to be fixed and it's got to be fixed.
Now, rather than focus on the act of absolute betrayal by Johnson or where Paisley got his $850 million from, I think it's better to hear how other unionist politicians have reacted. For me, the most important is from the former leader of the Ulster Unionist Party, the UUP, whose party, let's not forget for a second, is the DUP's main ally in Stormont. Okay? Now the ramifications of this cannot be overestimated for the following reasons. Before I give an opinion on this, however, I want to clarify that I do actually believe Paisley, and here is why. If Johnson had not given him that assurance, there would have been an instant backlash with denial after denial being issued by Westminster through official channels and through the mainstream media through unofficial channels. But as that clearly hasn't happened over the last 24 hours, I think we can take it that I'm going to be speaking from a stance of he's telling the truth. So back to the ramifications. A, if Paisley did inform the senior party leaders and they in turn chose to remain quiet about it, which is absolutely not beyond the realms of possibility, that could easily land themselves in trouble with their own members of the Legislative Assembly, and especially with their grassroots people. More problematic than that is B, however, and that's the reaction of the UUP. The former leader of the UUP, Lord Empey, struck out immediately at Paisley's confession when he asked in the Belfast Telegraph today for that he was going to require convincing answers to major questions such as why it had taken 2 years for Mr. Paisley to reveal this alleged conversation. He also wants to know, did other DUP figures, senior figures, know about this conversation? He wants to know when they learned about it. And if he did not tell them, why didn't he tell them? Okay? Now I can assure you that the next question will be, why in the hell did you keep that information within the DUP and keep the UUP out of the loop, as they are the main party supporting them in Stormont? And let's not simply think that this is going to sit well with UUP politicians. It won't. They know very well that the tide is turning in the north of Ireland. We must also remember that the Unionist Party leader, Doug Beattie, had also had a virtual meeting with Sefcovic yesterday, as did Sinn Féin, as we discussed earlier, and Jeffrey Donaldson. Now I'm going to ask you this. When did Frost or Johnson meet with those parties, all of those parties, since this crap hit the fan? When? They haven't done so. But Sefcovic did. Now we'll move on from that and reflect a little here on recent events. You see, the DUP don't want the protocol. They do not want a united Ireland, and they want to get as far away from Dublin as possible. But despite the opportunity, they failed to really raise trouble on the streets during the marching season. Okay? Try as they did to stoke the trouble, it just didn't happen. Now, if trouble had started, it could have galvanized the Unionist population and voters just as easily, by the way, as it could have broken it even further. However, what has been made clear to the UUP is that the DUP had not been presented with a better opportunity to raise the profile within the Unionist voting bloc. They screwed it up. They misread the situation, and it resulted in having 4 DUP leaders in the Northern Ireland Assembly within a 3-month period. The last of whom, Jeffrey Donaldson, is currently involved in a PSNI investigation into claims of criminal intimidation during the Putz election campaign. Now, those UUP members who have just learned about Paisley's admission will be acutely aware that the Westminster trust level amongst the people of Northern Ireland was at just 5% in the latest Belfast Telegraph poll. Now, the Belfast Telegraph is neither pro nor remain. It has really done a sterling job. It just reports. It doesn't seem to be favouring either side. Now, though those polls also showed, and we must not forget it, much distrust among the Unionist vote for the EU, and we have to remember that pro-protocol supporters will make a lot of hay up until the next elections, and the DUP will now be in the firing line, no matter the outcome of any negotiations, because they withheld vital information from their own supporters. So how can they be trusted? You know? But Šefčovič is concentrating his energy on including Stormont in future EU negotiations on the protocol, exactly as he claimed at his speech, which is something that Westminster has resisted. And if they say, no, we were all involved, everybody's going to ask, well, how the hell did Paisley know you were going to tear up the agreement and nobody else did? So I think, and by the way, would really welcome your views and comments on this, really, that there is a growing body within the UUP that could very well move to the Alliance Party for fear that their supporters simply and realistically cannot trust the DUP and they cannot trust Westminster to secure a better future for the people and for the institutions of the North of Ireland. Thanks for watching. Look forward to seeing you on the flip side, and thanks again for the subscriptions. Take care.